of success today. They home in their bed. They don't have time. Like the church at Laodicea. Because of spiritual blindness, people are neither hot nor cold.
That's right.
But only lukewarm.
That's right.
They don't sense their need of spiritual help. Revelations 3:15 and 16 says, I know thy works, that thou art neither cold nor hot. But I would thou wert cold or hot. So then, because thou art lukewarm, and neither cold nor hot, I will spew you
out of my mouth. Yes.
That's what the word says. When we drink lukewarm water, what do we want to do?
Spit it out.
Christ felt the same way about the church at Laodicea. And he feels this way about lukewarm, uncommitted saints.
Amen.
Uncommitted Christians have a me-centered attitude. It's all about me. They go to church for what they can get. You know, their main question is, what can the church do for me? You've seen people who have lost their commitment. They're just always dissatisfied. Something always wrong. They come to church, they find something to complain about. They're careful about getting too involved in the church. They don't want to get involved, especially with the people. You know, they don't pay much attention to God's larger purpose for them being a specific part of the church body. They frown on commitment of marriage. Instead of one man for one woman for life, they rather shack up than be committed. They try to do the same thing with the church. Just like the world, they're uncommitted. They go through the motions without really investing themselves. Some people look at going to church like they would look at the movie page of the paper to see what movie they're going to attend this Sunday. You know, they want entertainment. They're looking for what will best suit their needs. What will entertain them. What they're in the mood for. You know, these church, they're not devoted to any one church. And they can be critical. They're quick to find fault right in their own church. They treat the church with a consumer mentality. Looking for the best product for the price of them coming on Sunday morning. It's just like dating. No assurances, no obligations, just playing the field with no commitment. They're fickle, not invested for the long term. That's just like a lover with wandering eye. They're always on the hunt for something better. They're not in a serious church relationship or relationship with God. Some shop around looking for a church that best suits their lifestyle. For a pastor who's going to say what they want to hear.
All right.
Have you heard about backdoor revivals? They say a backdoor revival is where uncommitted people leave the church just as fast as they came in that back door. They hop around in different churches. They go to one church, oh, I like the way he preached. They go to another church because they like the music. They go to another church because of what kind of Bible study they have going on. You know, shopping around because what? They are uncommitted. They haven't found the right one yet. Then you have people who are only limited commitment. They actually speak louder than their words. You know, I serve, but it's going to be on my condition. I only come to church if it's convenient for me. You know, if it's raining, don't look for me. I'm only coming to the weather is nice. You know, they come to church, oh, is my friend on the program? Oh, and I'm coming. Don't let there be a Jaguar game or something. You won't see them. They're not showing up. You know, churches look at by them like it's an inconvenience to their schedule. They set their own limitations. They say, Lord, I come to church, but only on Sunday at 11 o'clock. I'm not coming to 8 o'clock service. I'm not coming back for evening service. I don't have time to go to Bible study on Wednesday. And I'm not coming to Sunday school because I got to stay home and cook my Sunday dinner. You know, they set their own limitations about
That's
their
right.
church attendance.
That's right.
In and for the church. Then you have some who say, Lord, I come to church every time the door's open. But don't expect me to do anything. I'm going to sit on that back row. I don't do outreach. And I'm not teaching the class. Don't ask me to get up. Please don't ask me to pray out loud. Or they say, Lord Jesus.
Anything.
As long as it don't cost me anything, I don't have no money. You know, church got too many rules. Jesus know me. I shouldn't have to start living with my boo thing. I shouldn't have to give up my friendship or my relationships or my money. The church always asking for money. That's an uncommitted Christian. And guess what? They are going nowhere. We're either in or we're out. There's no part-time Christian.
Right.
Many want the benefits of salvation, but they're not willing
Right,
to commit
right.
everything to God.
Mhm.
A dating and commitment might be a good way to figure out your romantic life, but the church is not a casual interest for us to flirt with, or at a visit at our convenience, or to shack up with. That's not the purpose for the church. This is what God wants for his people. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. True
Amen.
believers are what? The bride of
Brother.
The
And it's about time that professing Christians took the church seriously,
Yes.
displaying a passion that shows they have fallen in love with the family of God.
Yes.
What does it really mean to be completely committed to Christ? If it doesn't simply mean showing up at church and giving them a paycheck, a check, and going home, then what does being committed really mean? Well, Anna tells us what a committed woman does.
All right.
Now, Anna was not a household name. She wasn't a person of influence or affluence. You know, she had no impressive pedigree. She had no political power. In fact, she was probably just looked at as a weak, impotent widow. Yet God used her because of her commitment. And because of her commitment, we would know about the coming of Jesus. Despite her husband's death, she exemplified that even in the worst circumstances, God is still with
He's
us.
still.
There are several things that Anna teaches us. Number one, to be a committed woman, your age or your pedigree does not matter. Anna was a senior citizen. She was an old lady.
Yeah,
Scripture
yes.
says she was a widow to the age of 84. So it doesn't matter what your age is for God to use you.
That's
Romans
right.
12:1 says, present your bodies as a
Living sacrifice, holy.
and acceptable to God. He didn't mention anything about age.
Nothing but age.
Some older people say, I put my time in serving God and working in the church. No, it's time for some of these young people to do something. It's time for these young people to take over. It's time for them to get involved. I've done my time. But guess what? Have you heard Christians speak like that before?
Yes.
Have you spoken like that before? Well, with that attitude is not endorsed in the Bible. God used all kinds of old people in the Old and the New Testament.
That's right.
Moses,
That's right.
Miriam,
That's right.
Aaron, they were all old when God used them. Even Paul, he served the Lord as a senior citizen while in jail. He was old. Psalm 92:12-15 says, and in particular verse 14 it says, they shall still bear fruit in old age.
That's right.
They shall be fresh and flourishing. And
Yes.
this passage of scripture certainly suggests that there is a place for the elderly in the work of the Lord.
That's
They
right.
are able to bear fruit and remain fresh and flourishing despite their age. Another thing that Anna teaches us about being a committed woman is God doesn't care about your marital status. He don't care if you're single, widowed, divorced. He does not care. In fact, Anna had been widowed at a young age. She was a young girl when her husband died. And after her death took her husband after only 7 years of marriage, it appears that she never remarried again and she never had children. She could have easily gotten bitter with God and gotten mad. God, why me? Why am I widowed at such a young age? How come I don't have any children? She could have, widows during that time, they didn't have anybody to take care of them. Once their husbands died and they didn't have any sons, usually the sons would take care of the widow woman. But if she didn't have any sons, she was at the mercy of whoever decided to help her out. They didn't make a living, and yet she didn't turn her back on God. She took refuge, because it says what? She was in the temple day and night. Day and night. She took refuge under God's protective care. The world might ignore you or despise you, but guess what? God always has a plan to take care of you. And Anna teaches us that even though she was widowed, she could still be used by God. No matter what your situation is, married or single, widowed or divorced, rich or poor, you can be devoted to God, and He will be pleased with your devotion. A committed woman seeks to be continually in the presence of the Lord. Verse 37 says, she never left the temple.
Never. Never.
Now, how many of you know people who are committed at being at church all the time, day and night?
Not like that.
Not many. Statistically, there are not many committed church members. It's one thing, to fast every now and then or go on to prayer down there, but to go to church every day, And to practically live in the church, that's totally, completely unheard of. After Anna's husband's death, you might think she should have just drowned in a pity of depression and lost all hope for living. But evidently she lived in the temple. You know, she joined up with a group of holy women who devoted themselves to continual attendance and worshiping and praising the Lord. This was the place where they could feel God's glory, where she could visit and talk to the Almighty. If she didn't have a husband to talk to, she could talk to God. But she could experience God's holiness, and it washed over her mind, her body, and her spirit. She was not an occasional attender or a dead member, but a constant devout worshiper. Her seat in the temple was always occupied. She was a worship workaholic. She had her own schedule, her own hours, and that was always what? Fasting and praying.
Fasting and praying.
She wasn't just going to church to be around her friends or serving ministry. She made a decision that she went to church, she was going to be fasting and praying and seeking the face of God. How many of us can say that? How many of you can say when your seat is empty in the church, the pastor, Pastor Payne, he said, wait, something must be wrong. The sister so-and-so is not here today.
Amen.
How many of your pastor will miss you if you are absent? Women today are pulled in many directions. Society is changing. But that doesn't mean that we have to give up the ministry. That doesn't mean that we don't have time to serve God. It takes dedication and commitment. And women need to be more interested in reading and praising and serving the Lord than being up to date with what's going on in the world. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. A committed woman. She fasts and prays continually, despite the circumstances. Some of us might look at Anna's life and say, what a waste. 84 years old, and most of her life spent in the church, fasting and praying. And you got to be joking. That's not the kind of life I want to live. But Anna's worship took the form of fasting and prayer. Luke indicated that her habits of fasting and prayer represented a routine. Everybody's not called to devote ourselves to a ministry of fasting and prayer. But there are some who have a calling for a ministry of prayer. And Anna teaches us that we need to be continually seeking God's presence every day of our lives. For the Jews, you know, they fasted. The most common fast for the Jews lasted from sun up to sundown. And sometimes there were longer fasts mentioned in the Bible. Otherwise, they only fasted when there was a personal disaster or some kind of stress going on. Then they would call a fast. But Anna fasted all the time. Didn't say every day, but she fasted all the time. And she knew what? Fasting brings results. That's why she fasted. Now, a lot of churches go on a Daniel fast, and, you know, they all fast together, eating fruits and vegetables and nuts. And, you know, it seemed to be easier with the whole church fasting. But guess what? Anna fasted all alone. It didn't say anybody else was fasting.
That's
It said
right.
that she was fasting.
That's right.
Not to impress anybody, not because she wanted to lose weight or detox her body. She was fasting to honor God.
That's right.
How many of you have called your own personal fast? I know I have. When something hits me or hits my life, something going on,
That's right.
I don't have to wait for the church call a fast. I call my own fast. Hallelujah. If I need a breakthrough from God,
That's right.
I
That's
call
right.
my own.
That's right.
There you go.
But fasting is a beneficial way of setting time aside to seek the Lord.
That's
In
right.
a time when you
Spend
know
time
you
with
need
God.
His will, and you know Him, you need Him to come when you call in a time of crisis. Anna's worship also took the form of prayers. Prayer is a commitment. Sometimes it's hard to get up early in the morning and do your morning devotional prayer. I know it's hard for me. But I get up 5:30 in the morning, pull out my Bible, even though I'm sleeping. Sometimes I fall face down in the Bible. But guess what? I'm still committed to waking up at 5:30 to do my morning prayer. Prayer is a commitment. And to Anna, that prayer brought her joy. It brought her strength to keep going on. It wasn't a burden. And this kind of dedication is rare in today's world. Her service to God was not just coming to church and standing in the church aisle or being an usher or running the Sunday school for the kids. Her devotion was to prayer and fasting. Well, it may be impossible to live in a church during these times because of our responsibilities. We still need to set aside some time during the day.
That's
to
right.
seek the
That's
Lord
right.
just like Anna.
That's right.
That's
We need
That's
to
right.
take time to
That's
spend
right.
in devotion, time to read His Word, time to sing hymns and songs and spiritual songs. Some of the God's saints are especially gifted, like I say, for the ministry of prayer. And he enables them to devote a large portion of time to that ministry. But part of that time is not just praying for themselves. It's also interceding and praying for others.
Amen.
The main thing is to seek God and commune and develop a relationship with him. Number 4 is a committed woman is dependable. And I have one characteristic that we should all strive to have, and that's dependability. Can people count on you? Can they count on you to show up? Are you dependable? How strong is it your staying power when it comes to delivering on what you say you're going to do? Now, have you ever had people that say, I'm going to help, I'm going to do so and so. If you need me, just call me. You know, whatever I can do, or whatever I can help with, all you have, I'll be there. But all you have is their word. And so the opportunity presents itself, and you need them. You call on them. You need to use them for something in the church.
Yeah.
But guess what? You can't find them.
Can't find them.
The phone going to voicemail. They don't, or they won't return your text messages.
Yeah.
Or they just don't come. They don't show up.
Yeah.
Because you see, you were going on their word.
That's
Because
right.
they told you. They said, I'll be there first.
Right. Right.
But then all you have to do, they said, you know, all you have to do is call me when you need me. Well, you call. But when you needed them, you couldn't find them. Now, I have a friend. Talk about my friend. I have a friend that, you know, I know I'm not the only one that's been down that road. But I have a friend that whenever I, talk to her, she said, you girl, whatever you need me to help you to do, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I'm here for you. You need me for something, I got you back, blah, blah, blah. She's going to help me out. It's got to the point, y'all, whatever friend says, it's going one ear.
That's right.
And out the other. Why? Because I know from history that when I call on friend ain't been around. Or friend come late. Or friend say, didn't you ask me to do such and such? Well, I tell you, look, I don't need your help anymore. I needed it then. When I called you, I couldn't get you. So I don't need your help now. But then guess what? Friend get upset.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why you ask her to do it?
Attitude.
I'm your friend.
Attitude.
I said I would be there. I'm supposed to be here for you. Well, guess what? Let's say that. I know that's what you told me.
Yeah.
I know that's what you said.
You said.
But when I called you and I needed you, I couldn't find you. I couldn't rely on you. And that's what it's called being not dependable. Because we are not dependable and lack commitment, it's hard for God to bless us. We don't stick with something for long enough to get the blessing of the reward sometimes. Some people, we don't need to get tired of doing what's right. Don't get tired of doing what's good. Don't get tired of doing what you need to do.
That's right. Amen.
Don't get discouraged and give up. For we will what? Reap.
That's
A harvest
right.
of blessing at the right time.
That's right. That's right.
And a watch for the coming of the Messiah. The scripture said at that very moment, she came up and began giving thanks to God. Because what? She was dependable.
That's right.
And because she was dependable and a star Messiah.
Amen.
Amongst all the people that went to the temple that day.
Yeah.
And to be in the presence of God, they came to make sacrifices and give alms. But amongst all the people, all the religious leaders that were there, all of the scribes that were there, all the Pharisees that were in the temple that day, only Anna and Simeon were able to see the Messiah.
Come on.
And why is that? Because they were committed.
Ooh,
They were
hallelujah.
dependable. They were devoted.
Right.
So, they got to hold the door of Jesus and give thanks to God for his coming. See, that was a big opportunity that everybody else missed out on because they weren't there. They weren't looking for the Messiah. And only Anna and Simeon got to hold the Son of God. How are you watching for the return of the Messiah? Are you going to be in place? Will you be at the temple? Will you be in church waiting the return of Jesus?
Wow.
When Jesus was born, God wanted the prophets to testify about the birth of the Redeemer. But that would not have been possible. Nobody would have known he was here if it wasn't for